26, I was diagnosed with cancer, and my life has never been the same.
So as husband and as wife and as parents of 3 beautiful young children, we've been dealing with this together. And for the first time, we're now going to answer some questions and share a sneak peek into what it's like dealing with cancer as a young family, especially as parents to 3. Now, this is a journey that has not been easy. And navigating with 3 young kids has definitely added a unique twist. So whether you're here to learn, to find hope, or just listen in, we're grateful for your support. And without further ado, let's dive into things. Now, I have some notes here. I wrote 2 quick things. Number 1, Alicia does not know what these questions are, so I wanted to capture as true of a raw and unfiltered emotion as possible. And I've decided to flow through the questions and kind of let them get off more emotionally and more heavy as things progress. So we're going to start things off on a lighter note. And this question specifically was asked by Omar. So I'll ask the question, I'll answer first, and then I'll let you go second. Okay. But Omar asks, how has cancer affected your sex life? So I know she's probably going to be a bit more like bottled up on that type of question, but if anyone knows me, I don't really give a shit, far from it. So I'll start first. I'll start by saying right out the gate, I'm a dog. I'm a silverback gorilla, 24/7, anytime, any place. I could go. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't think I shared this with her. So in our family, all 3 of our kids got their heads buzzed by me. And the only person left in this family to not have their head buzzed was my wife. And it came to a point where she started losing a lot of hair. And I'm like, hey, we just got to cut it off and save what we got. Nothing really has changed on my end.
I guess for me, it was just more of the embarrassment of, like you said, not having hair anymore. And it being weird in terms of what it looks like now than before.
Did the chemo or did the treatment or anything affect, I guess, I don't know, like emotional state or pleasure state or anything like that? Enhance, make it worse, or not really?
I think it was more because I had a combination of postpartum and starting chemo at the same time. So obviously hormones and stuff are different postpartum. But after I got my first period, that things started normalizing. So the desire started coming back more than prior.
I was going to say, you got to explain that to us, man, what that means.
Because postpartum is, I guess, both of them was like a double whammy.
Okay, cool. So that was question number 1. Question number 2 that we've been asked was just being asked to walk, or for Alicia to walk us through her cancer protocol, especially when she got diagnosed. So I further elaborate on that because I know a bit more. So I figured I can just guide this question a bit longer. Mm-hmm. But right out the gate, what did you do at the beginning and what were some of the results that you noticed?
So at the beginning, we agreed that I was going to try doing everything naturally. So that's what we did. I cut all processed food, sugars. I went straight keto fasting. I took a bunch of supplements to help with the glucose while I was still eating on keto to get my ketones down and as well as my blood sugar. And then ketones up, yeah. For
anyone that doesn't know, I'll give some quick context here. There's a field of study that shows that cancer is a metabolic disease, not as much of a genetic comes out of nowhere type of thing. And the concept with this is if you keep your glucose low, which is primarily the fuel that cancer uses to grow, it's glucose, which means like sugars, carbohydrates, things like that. So if you can keep your glucose low, and then in turn, when you don't need a lot of glucose, you're obviously in a state of ketosis, whatever it is, that's why you call the keto diet. Your body starts producing something called ketone bodies. And your body is really efficient at burning ketone bodies. It uses it as a primary source of fuel energy, and cancer cannot grow off of ketones. So your body still has the energy, but it doesn't have the glucose to actually feed the cancer. So the concept is lower sugar, lower carbohydrates, be in a state of ketosis more regularly, and then start starving out the cancer cells so they have nothing to actually grow with. So just some added context there. So she was taking some medication to help keep the glucose in the blood lower.
Yeah, and then we added hyperbaric chamber therapy.
Which is what?
Pretty much you go into a chamber. It's kind of like a submarine type thing, and you're going below sea level. I got up to I think 200 or 300 feet below sea level, which the idea behind it is to flood your blood in your body with oxygen, which cancer cannot survive in. So it's used a lot for after treatment to help the body recover, but it's also proven to help during chemo treatment or during cancer treatment. So I was doing that, and then we also added vitamin C, high dose vitamin C, and then I also
added...
That's
IV, by the way, drip IV treatment.
Yeah, and then I also added something called mistletoe with the vitamin C, which is used more in Europe to help during cancer as well it's like kind of like a anti-parasitic, because there's the other philosophy that cancer starts from parasites. So with the vitamin C helps with oxidative stress and inflammation in the body, also helping with the chemo and in conjunction with the other medication that I was taking and diet. After 3 months of just doing that, at my scan, my cancer was already shrinking. So I knew that it was working at that point. However, then I found out we were expecting our third. So I had to stop a lot of that stuff because you can't take it while you're pregnant. So that kind of changed the cancer treatment course.
So to further expand on that, my next question was, sorry, 1 sec. Okay, look, I need you to sit down on your butt now. I don't know if we're gonna have a second Marty. All right, so second take on this interview. First time was a bit more difficult to actually do this with 3 kids, as I had assumed, but anyways, we continue. So the second question for you, Alicia, was what prompted you to go and get checked? I mean, you're 25 at the time. Like, who at 25 years old, it's like, I got cancer, I gotta get checked. Like, how did that come to fruition?
In the summer, I noticed a lymph node in my neck that was not going down. Usually lymph nodes will increase when you're sick, but it was like already almost 6 weeks at that point where it was just still there, and it's never been like that before. So that's when all the doctor's appointments started. I started seeing the family doctor. Then I did some allergy testing to see if it was allergies. Nothing. Then they sent me to a specialist. Saw him in December. He already kind of suspected that it was lymphoma. So because at the time I was pregnant, I couldn't do an actual full biopsy or scan. So we did a needle biopsy in January. That one came back inconclusive. And then I had to wait to do a full biopsy after I gave birth, and then that March, after I turned 26, is when we found out.
I did find out, indeed. And I guess a little side note, if that was me, I definitely would have just shrugged it off. I would have been like, it's just a lump, who gives a shit? So I guess, I know you've always been a bit more on the paranoid side when it comes to things like that.
Yeah.
So I guess one word of encouragement, as we live in this hyper era of cancer rates through the roof. I was supposed to have like 1 to 2 people are going to have cancer over the next X amount of years. I think it's like 80 or 90% increase in cancer amongst people that are under 30, which is wild. So yeah, if you got a lump, go check it out, man. Go check it out. Words with encouragement there. But after you got checked, I guess walk us through the initial cancer protocol when you got diagnosed. Like, what were you doing at the beginning? What were some of the results? And were you doing like chemo, or like, again, what did you do at the beginning in terms of the health protocol to try to fight and battle cancer? And what were the results early on?
So like I said before, we started with the diet, with fasting, the oxygen therapy, the IV therapy, some other supplements and pills as well, which all of that in conjunction was working. But then I got pregnant, and then we had to stop all that. So it was kind of just a wait and watch. However, the oncologist wanted me to do obviously chemo from the start. So it was 6 months of chemo, no radiation because of where it was, but I said no to radiation regardless. And she still wanted me to do radiation while I was pregnant, and that was a big no for us. So we waited. It seemed like we were still monitoring my blood during the pregnancy, and nothing had really changed, which was good. So the pregnancy kind of kept it at bay. And then after I gave birth to our third, I'm not sure what happened, but my neck just blew up insanely. And yeah, at that point then I couldn't wait 3 months to start the natural protocol again, so we had to make the decision to start the chemo.
Why didn't you want to start chemo early on?
Because I saw what it did to my mom. The chances of chemo causing secondary cancers later on are very, very high. But at this point, like I was kind of didn't know what else to do. So it was this or suffer possibly not being able to breathe, or the cancer pushing more onto my heart.
Yeah, okay. And in terms of chemo specifically, I think you kind of got into it. I wrote, what are some of the long-term or some of the side effects of chemo, both long-term and short-term? I guess you've experienced some of the short-term side effects there. Do you care to share any of them? And then any other long-term effects that you may know or you may have studied about? Me
personally, I've been fortunate not to have experienced too many side effects. I had it the worst the first, I'd say, 2 months of chemo, where like I was in excruciating pain. My neck, my arms, it was just very unbearable. And I even had told Matt that Like I needed more than just Advil and Tylenol. Like it wasn't doing anything at that point. And then all of a sudden, as my neck started getting smaller, the pain started going away. So I kind of figured that was just the cancer dying off. What was the other question?
Both short-term and then long-term side effects.
Long-term effects, I have no idea yet. But from other people that I've seen, some people get joint pain. Some people have issues with their hair growth when they come and it never comes back. Secondary cancers, like I said. But yeah, so far I don't really know what or if I will get any long-term effects.
Yeah, hopefully not. I remember we were looking at one study and they said that on average, people that do chemo, it shortens lifespan, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Due to the fact that it just like absolutely destroys your body and attacks it in every way, shape, or form. I think that you keeping your health and your diet, and I'll go ahead and I'll expand on some things in case anyone's curious. You can look into the studies and the stats yourself, but there is an entire field of science that shows that you can keep cancer at bay with what you eat. So cancer primarily feeds on two things: glucose and sugars in the blood. So if you keep
glutamine.
And if you keep your sugar intake low as well as your carbohydrate intake low, and you just don't consume that, you'll have a state of ketosis where your body will start producing ketone bodies. And in that state, your body has energy and fuel to survive, but the cancer cells do not. So you can actually starve them out. You can keep them at bay. And then there's some people that use that style of like eating your way out with low doses of chemo or IV or other types of treatments, but not as aggressive as like full-on chemo, full-on radiation, all this crazy shit that they do in like the mass protocols. So I think that you doing that and doing the IV and, you know, us paying for you to go and do all these other treatments and making sure that your supplements are top notch and that your food is top notch and making sure that you're eating quality food and you're keeping your sugars low. I mean, I have personally seen you, like, it doesn't look like you're really affected aside from after you come home on chemo Mondays. Aside from that, like, you don't really look like it's really beating the shit out of you. So I think that, you know, if anyone here is watching and you have cancer or you know someone that has cancer, like, definitely look into it. I will add in the show notes down below the doctor who actually studies extensively. I was fortunate enough to speak with him, and he was actually on the Diary of a CEO. We watched his podcast the other day, which is really cool to see him come to light and to start sharing all these things. But yeah, I think that that's important to mention there. His diet is a huge factor in the overall health of the patient, as well as, you know, the health of the cancer. If you're going to shrink it or keep it at bay or let it grow, is like, what are you eating? What are you consuming? Okay. And then I think this was a blended question. Both Omar and Eric had this question there, and they said, how do you find strength when going through harder times? Or if you don't at now, like early on, I guess. I know early on you let your head space get into certain spots. So if right now you're kind of like more stable and it's clear early on, or maybe both, like how do you or how did you find strength when going through harder times?
I think that's a two-part answer, because in the beginning it was more of a mental issue, I guess, getting around the negative thoughts, which you helped me with. I think that also plays a part in the recovery, not letting your mind, or not letting your mind take control or giving power to the cancer or whatever you're dealing with. And then also just fighting for my kids. Like, I had 3 kids that I needed to be there. I needed to take care of them. So I think that was not easy, but like a very obvious motivation to stay as healthy as I could during the treatment, but also the end goal of getting cancer free.
Fair. And has it progressed? Has it been easier for you to keep your mindset at bay and like check the negative thoughts out? And I mean, watch a lot of UFC.
Yeah, like I still get...
Check the kicks.
Yeah, I still get the odd negative thought, and I just have to think back about what you would say and just look at the kids, and it's easier to not let it take days of my head or weeks of my head and focus on the positive.
Okay, and then this has been a question for both of us. So do you want to start? Do you want me to go on this one? All right. Someone asked, what has been the most challenging aspect of going through the diagnosis, and I guess ultimately meant like going through the battle of cancer. So I'll go. I wrote some notes here, so I'll kind of just read off the notes and I'll expand off of it. So for me specifically, was like I couldn't let it faze me. Obviously, early on, like any man would be, you hear that your wife has cancer, it's like your head can get into a certain place. But my wife knows that I've always been the glass is half full kind of guy. I refuse to look at life in a negative view, or really like let that shit come to manifestation in my mind. Like to me, even the worst case scenario, I don't really think about it too much. Like I'm very much like, I only think about positive things. And if something bad does happen, she knows like big issues and big traumas or big problems, like I navigate through very easily because I have like this state of like, I can't think, I can't feel, I can only do. So combining all of that, like I was like positive, like your mindset is obviously going to be very important. If you know what placebo is, that's why they do placebo tests. There's the opposite of placebo, which is nocebo. Like if you don't think something is going to work, your brain can literally manifest that into your body. So there's all these different types of studies that we now know about the state of your mind and how it affects the state of your body. So I poured a lot of that into her. Is like, if you know and you believe these things, then like your mind needs to be sharp. Your mind needs to be, razor sharp and very, very focused. So for me specifically, it was like not letting it faze me. I have full-time employees to keep on a payroll. I have a roof to put over our head. I have medical bills we have to pay for, quality food to stuff the fridge with, 3 kids to feed, take care of, and I do it all without anyone helping me. So ultimately, it's a lot of cash coming out of the bank account every single month and a lot of responsibility. And I wrote, and some people this might sound weird. Obviously, I wish that my wife didn't have to go through cancer, but I am honestly grateful for this opportunity to experience this because it's allowed me to further be able to detach myself emotionally from certain things and just climb the mountain in front of me, because I think that as men, that's really our duty and our obligation, is to climb the mountain ahead of you, regardless of what's on your shoulders and what pain and what trauma is weighing you down, and to not be a bitch and to not succumb to the pressure and sit there and cry and mope and play victim and do all this bullshit. I really do believe that like men are leaders inherently, and to lead means you got to carry, not like point a finger and tell people where to go, but like to actually drag the sled forward. And yeah, it's really given me this ability to climb this mountain where at times it feels really like the weight of the world is on my shoulders, but like I don't have any room or margin for error. So for me, it's really, really allowed myself to like just adapt and be cool with heavy emotion in these types of scenarios and still be able to push forward and operate at an elite level. And I think that my mindset and my mentality have really gotten to a whole nother level. Like, I mean, if anyone watches UFC, I'm going to make a quick UFC parallel here, right? Like you can look at some of the, like McGregor, for example. People don't say he was the greatest fighter of all time, but he just had like this unwavering mindset. And when he knocked out Aldo, I mean, they didn't want to do that rematch for a reason. Like Aldo was definitely a good fighter, but like you could see what the mind does, like just like thinking that I'm untouchable. Like I can push forward no matter what, no matter who's in front of me, no matter the outcome, or sorry, not the outcome, no matter like the input to the equation, like I will just win no matter what. And that's honestly a stance that I've taken on life. So battling this has definitely allowed me to plant and dig my feet into my position even more and, carry us and carry her and carry our family through it all, financially, emotionally, and all of it. So for me, obviously early on, it was a bit challenging just in terms of the emotion, she probably hasn't seen a lot of times, but like you sit there and cry and you feel like, the weight of the world is on your shoulders. Keep pushing forward. Like that's all I kept telling myself. And yeah, I'm grateful that I had to go and was able to go through it, because now I'm just at another level of mentality. Like there's really not a lot that can shake me off of my course and what I know I got to do. So that's my experience. But again, I'll repeat the question because I know I kind of went off on a long tangent there. The question was, what has been the most challenging aspect of going through the diagnosis or like battling cancer?
I think the most challenging, like at the beginning, was if I was going to be here for my kids. Sorry. Yeah, I think that was the most challenging. And then you having to do everything and having this financial burden.
And then leaving our kids to not eat for breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also made me appreciate more of the little things and not dwell on the stupid, pointless things, and just appreciate the moments and the time that we get together, especially with relationships, not putting energy into relationships that are not fruitful or positive. But yeah, just
the mindset.
The mentality and just being positive.
Okay. I think you kind of touched base on this. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add. It was for Alicia. What did hearing the news do to you as a woman or mother, and what emotions were you going through? I think you kind of just displayed some of the emotions, but is there anything else that you wanted to add on what it was like being a woman and a mother? Like what going through that news of like you got cancer did to you? Or
yeah, it was, like I said, about being here for my kids, and then kind of brought up emotions of me losing my mom. But yeah, those were the two hardest things to overcome at the beginning.
Yeah. And then someone asked for me, what did the news do in terms of me as a man/leader? Did it break me down? I think I went extensively into that early on a little bit, but no, it did not break me down. Far from it. It built me back stronger. And like I said, I'm appreciative that I had to go through that type of mental stress. And another question was, what did the news do to your marriage? Would you say that y'all have grown Texans? Y'all have grown as a unit since finding out?
Omar, is this for me or both of us?
I guess both of us.
I guess I'll go first. I think it's weird. I think it's like in certain aspects it's brought us together, but then we obviously had our like challenges too, because there's a lot of stress on both of us. But in general, I think as a family we're more connected.
Yeah, I'd also like to expand on this. There's a great book that we both read before we got married called Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts. I don't know if you remember that chapter. It was like the 4 or the 5 stages of relationship. It's like number 1 is like extreme love, and then honeymoon, and then there's like a point where everyone likes to like just, you're always at each other's throat, and then there's like another point after that where it's like you kind of come to terms with each other. Then there's like the stage after that where it's like kind of like look at old people, and it's like they could just stand side by side. And it's not like this crazy, overly affectionate, honey boo boo nonsense. They're not at each other's throats. They're just content with one another, and they've learned to adapt and love each other and just live life together. And I feel like we've also entered into that phase. I mean, we've been together for a decade now, so it's a long ass time. And yeah, early on, we've definitely had the honeymoon. We've definitely had the at your throats. We've been through it all, and I think, now we're really entering that later stage where it's like we don't really think about, I guess, too much. Like, I never think about, like, what would it be like without you? I kind of just have come to terms that, like, you're part of my life, and, I'm, like, overly affectionate, like, I can't wait to see you when I come down, aside from maybe when I go on a trip and I don't see you guys for a bit. But yeah, we've just entered this, like, co-mingled stage where it's just normal at this point. Like, some days we are more affectionate, some days we're not as affectionate. I may be going through a lot of stress or a lot of stuff at work, and I just don't have the headspace for it, or vice versa. You may be dealing with the kids, and you're not feeling good after the chemo, but we don't take that as like a personal slight. We've just come to terms and live together. So I think overall, it's definitely brought us together, but not in like this crazy romantic hyper sense. It's just like more of like as a unit, and realizing like we're both here for each other, and some days we're going to be there emotionally and like more emotionally engaged, and some days not, but we don't really bicker. We don't really sit there and at each other's throats or anything like that. So hopefully that answers that. And here is a more difficult question. Someone wrote, I forget who it was, this one, but playing things out at the worst case scenario. And then I wrote in brackets, which is not going to happen. But it was a popular question. Do you have any specific plans made? I guess I'll kind of let you take this one. Any specific plans made? Like, worst case scenario, cancer doesn't get better, it's away from it, you die. Have you made any specific plans? I'll let you go first.
Like plans together or in my head?
I know we haven't really planned anything out together because we have not taken the conversation at that point. Again, I think like strong will, strong mind, but...
Yeah, we've definitely never had that conversation together. Me, I don't know, I try not to even think about it, because then it just brings a negative thought.
I don't think that's really a question for you as much anyways. What are you going to do? You're dead. As morbid as that sounds. Like,
I'm dead.
You kick the rocks there, and there's nothing you can do. It's
like planning my funeral?
I don't know. I don't think you planned your funeral, not that I know of.
No, I think if anything, there's just certain things that I would want for my kids.
Yeah.
To make sure that you do for them. But
obviously, I have thought about this. I mean,
obviously.
It's more on my shoulders than anyone's. So I wrote here, I'm like a very much a one day at a time kind of guy. Again, like I'm not really going to sit there and draft up a 50-page essay. All I know is with 3 kids, I would for sure need help. There's no way I would be a mother and a father to these 3 children. It is just, I'm not a mother, far from. And like, I'm a good father, I'm a great father, but I'm not a mother. I'm not here to, sit there and make the milk and like this and breakfast and change ass cheeks and go to work. Like, it's just, it's not going to be for me. And I'm fortunate enough that I'm financially stable and blessed to be able to do something about it. So for me, I'm a leader, I'm a provider, and a foundational man that I can bear a lot of weight on my shoulders. And I've recognized that as my place in this family. So on the worst case, I would go to a church. I would put out job posts, and I would look for a full-time stay-at-home nanny that could have a house or like a livable unit downstairs in the basement. She would be tasked and paid full-time salary to watch the 3 kids. And while I go upstairs and work, when I'm done work, I would come down and then take care of my kids. But that's about all the mental energy I gave into that. I know, like, quick fire from the hip what I would do. But again, haven't really entertained that too much, because strong will, strong mind, I just don't let that type of mentality. So this one is a question for you. It was, what are your biggest fears for your children if they were to have to navigate through a life without you by their side?
I think obviously the milestones
What does that
in
mean?
their life. So
Just that you wouldn't be there for like
yeah, like I didn't have my mom at my wedding. Why'd you have to answer these questions? So yeah, I think they're driving for their first time.
Even the girls' first boyfriends?
Their first boyfriends.
Oh, that's good.
Just stuff like that, and then not being able to help probably more so my girls, but when they have kids, which is something that I miss that my mom's not here for. Just stuff like that.
Yeah, that's not really a question for me, so I'll keep going on. This is my question for you, actually. So, in the event of the worst case scenario, I wrote 2 things. Part 1 of this question, in the event of the worst case scenario, what are some things that you would want me to do moving forward without you by my side?
I don't know. I think I would definitely want, obviously, them to be around the church or church people, and just have that influence. Still having them around my family. I'm doing stuff with them.
So if you're watching, that means you gotta invite me over.
Yeah, obviously I would want somebody in their lives. I know that you would want, you can't be alone either, as much as it would be difficult, but I think it also depends on the age too. Like if it was right now, they definitely need somebody to be with them growing up.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I thought a good full-time nanny.
Yeah.
And then the last part that I had for this more difficult question was, what are the top 3 things in the worst case scenario that you pass? What would you want me to tell our kids about you and to make sure that they remember about you?
Oh gosh, I have no idea. Yeah.
I already know what I'd say anyways.
Ways to keep my memory alive.
Yeah, I already know what I'd say, so I knew you weren't going to have any answer to that anyways. I wrote it down and I was like, she's not going to know what to say there. Very much a selfless person, as you can tell. That's one of the things that I would tell them, but I won't come to that point. Cool. So wrapping up, final closing out questions. Quick bang. What are some positive things that you've taken out of this chapter in your life?
Well, it's more because of you. Just my mental shift. Obviously, I was a very pessimistic before. So I think that has been a big eye-opener. The biggest thing that this diagnosis has done is just change my way of thinking, which not only helps me but helps my kids because they're not around that now. And
yeah, now they have crispy ass cotton sheets that are 100% organic cotton, and they literally feel like nacho chips.
And then that too, like after this whole cancer thing, and like at the beginning when I was learning to do everything natural, I learned a lot of stuff about the crap that we used to put in our bodies or put on our skin. So it's definitely made me much more
in all
aware.
fairness, I've been on this trend for a minute.
Yeah, I think I'm more now.
You thought I was crazy at first.
Now.
I was like, yo, we gotta stop using Dawn dish soap, and you're like, Dawn dish soap?
Yeah. I mean, I was already starting, but like after this, then I started reading, and same thing with like some of the drugs and supplements that I was taking. It just like opened a whole nother can of worms that I wasn't exposed to. So I was very grateful for that in that aspect. And
cool. So mentality and just knowledge.
Yeah.
Cool. Now for actually, I'll skip this one real quick. Why do you think cancer rates are on the rise?
I would say EMF radiation. Obviously,
get the tinfoil hats out, guys.
COVID vaccines is another one.
That's it. This channel's getting taken down.
Which just edit that. And then obviously the chemicals in our products that everybody is exposed to, and
shitty diets as well, maybe.
And then obviously the bad food.
Fair. And then I wrote for anyone that has cancer, what are some recommendations that you would give to them if they're watching this right now? Because I know you've researched and studied cancer a lot. And also, would you be open to people DMing you and asking you for help if they're watching this right now and they maybe feel lost or hopeless or they don't know where to turn or where to go?
Yeah, you can definitely DM me. I can send you some of the links and groups that I'm in and that I've followed and stuff. And I think definitely you need to be your own advocate. I don't care what people say about Canada having free healthcare. It's not good. If you are not pushing for your tests, not pushing for your own treatment, you're going to be just another sheep in the line. Chemo and radiation are not your first line of defense. Like, you can treat stuff naturally. You just have to be willing to do it. Obviously, it might cost a little bit more, but that's a decision that you have to make. And just questioning your doctors. Like, they don't know everything. There was lots of times that we questioned our oncologist, and she had no idea. She had to go in the back research and print out a paper to explain, because like they just can't know everything, so you need to do your own research, bring in that information and bring it forward to your doctors, but ultimately take your health into your own hands. Don't trust the systems.
For sure. They're also, I mean, you can't really, I know as much as we want to call them, because we can get frustrated with them, you and I, they're also indoctrinated, right? Like they spend like 8 to 12 years of school being told the same thing from the same groups of people that get paid the same funding from top-down organizations and things. But I'll close out with another person that I think people should check out. Dr. Thomas N. Seyfried. He has done some fantastic work on how to battle cancer naturally, and he doesn't claim to cure it, but he definitely has a lot of data for people having cured cancer and for people living longer, better lives without having to go through, poison. So definitely a great resource to check out as well. But I think that's it. That concludes this interview. What do you guys think? Should she start a vlog? Drop it in the comments down below if she should start a vlog or if she should start doing something. But guys, we thank you very much for watching this. I've been wanting to do this with her for quite a bit now, and now is a good time. And I think you probably feel better after being able to have an outlet and put this out too. And hopefully someone finds any inspiration. Any last comments from you?
Yeah, no, just don't assume that your life is over, because it's possible to beat cancer. It's not a death sentence.
Cool. Good last words.